you can walk out. But don't, we had guidelines. We became a group, and then we became a company with shareholders, and things, move. Life, as I said, is lived in stages and phases, and so you have to adjust to that. It was hard for me as well to, I started with a company that was, my boss was accountess. It was a family operation, and when I left, it was this huge group, the number one luxury group in the world with 50 companies, an amazing number of procedures and rules and things like that. I mean, many of them I didn't like either, but if you're unhappy about it and it really bothers you that much, then go and look for something else. We would tell that to these people, and we had a few who got the message. It's like, okay, but don't start this. We don't need this. We don't have the time for it. It's really not constructive, and it's a company policy. We didn't, it's the headquarter decision, and we have to live with it. So if you can't live with it, and don't discourage those who agree to live with it. Just go and see elsewhere, and. I have to say that more often than not, the people who left and went somewhere else were unhappy there too. So it shows that there's a trend in the kind of the kind of rotten apple you have in any company, in any group. And it's about one of the first seminar I took, because I didn't know anything about HR, and we didn't have the money when we started the company to have personnel, so we were hiring, and I was like, oh my God, I've never done that. How do you interview? How do you, nobody had taught me that. So I took this seminar in New York, and I'll never forget this very brilliant guy who was giving this 2 days weekend seminar, and he said, in a company there are, great people, there are average people, and there are a few rotten apples. The average is about 1 in 10. And he said, when that person started, it's better that that person goes. And I must say that in my almost 30 years in business, I found this pretty correct. So these are the people who will go on the internet and just use terrible language and said amazing things about people that are don't even exist, but it releases them and they live with that, and you can't change them. So let them go somewhere else.
Can we talk a little bit about clothing?
Sure.
And I think it's much more complex for women than it is for men. And I want you to explain why.
Yeah.
I think we should touch on it because you wrote about it extensively in your book. Women Work in the Art of Savoir-Faire, Business Sense and Sensibility. Yeah. But without giving too much away, can you share a little bit about why it's more complex for a woman to get dressed in the workplace, or if she has her own company, than it is for a man to get dressed?
Well, because, unfortunately, we're judged by our appearance. And for a guy, you need a different tie every day, but what you wear is your suit and shirt and shoes, and they all look alike, like little penguins, And for us women, it's difficult. And I have to say it, I've been shocked through my business life to see some women coming to work or coming to interviews dressed like they were going to, a nightclub, or dress what I would say, not in an appropriate manner, and sometimes subtle, but, you don't, at least in our company, again, it depends what kind of company you work. There are lots of companies today where it's very casual, and I think we've gone over the worst about this famous or infamous Casual Friday. It was a disaster in New York. You would have young people come in shoes, beach, what are they called, tongs, And for us, it was hard to explain that, look, we can have a very important journalist or customer, or actually our chairman show up without telling us, and it's Friday. How would you like to how do you feel, if it sees you like that? So for us, in many ways, and I think for luxury companies, again, you have to you have to walk the walk, and it means you have to be presentable. Now, it doesn't mean you have to wear, a pantsuit, although I must say thank you to Yves Saint Laurent, who was the first designer who understood about, you can be feminine in pants and created the pantsuits because they're beautiful and, you avoid all the looking at your legs and looking, all these things. And other than that, don't come with a blouse that, is open so that you can see down your nostril. I mean, it's again, common sense. Wear what's appropriate for where you work. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to have designer clothes. You don't have to have fancy clothes, but have some basic items that will not embarrass you wherever you go. And so I gave, it's a business book, but I have a menu. I talk about table manners. I talk about how to get dressed because I've seen I couldn't say I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot that's not so good and made me want to say that it's a reminder. But if you don't know it, these are the things that you just can't wear when you work for such and such company.
What do you say to a woman who says, look, if I dress suggestively and I'm being interviewed by men and being hired by men, it's better for me? What do you say to a woman who says that to you or thinks that way?
Well, actually, I think I said somewhere in the book that, when we interview people, several of us would see them, and they were all men except me. And when we had a case like that, men would laugh. And I remember once I had a woman who had was very competent and had all the skills, and I said, I want to hire her. And my CFO, comes and says, Mireille, this woman, did you see how she dressed? And, there was a ha ha ha. And, he had a point. But I said, well, we've taught a lot of people how to dress better. We had salespeople who, when they came for the interview, I said, oh my God. And then in very subtle way. And also, it rubs on you when they see their colleague dressing well and having a nice tie. I remember one of my great pleasures was going to top restaurant or top stores across the U.S. and because we had local staff all around the country and having, an owner or chef or saying to me or food and beverage director saying, your staff is always so nicely dressed. And I felt, proud because I think it's very important. You've got to walk the walk.
I think when women first began the entrance into business, and I don't know about Europe, but I know in the United States, it was like this transition of even women's business clothes were very masculinized.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of that where it's either social or it's very masculinized still. And I'm not sure here in America, and I'd like to know what you think about this, if that other realm, that other style has come in yet where it's still feminine, but it's professional. But it seems like one's on the right, one's on the left. In other words, there's not this style yet. Do you find that here in America, or is that just me, the way I'm looking at things?
I totally agree with you. Actually, I don't have a perfect answer, but my experience and my looking at things, and because on my website, and I do a lot about fashions and fashion, and there's great fashion design in America, but I think it is a country of extremes, and unfortunately, you have the two extremes. It's either what we call coincé, stuffy, and this kind of. I remember seeing them in the subway. Those law firms lawyers going with these very strict, navy blue suits, but not well cut, and kind of looking like men, and you don't have to dress like a man. And then the other extreme, because there's so much. Fashion is so the turnover, and because America is a consumer society, and it's getting like that in Europe, unfortunately. But all these cheap clothes that are not well cut, that are not good, that are not fitting well, and women have a hard time. I think I would say the last 5 years has been some progress. Some designers got it. But we need designers, and maybe because more and more women are going into designing, we need designers who understand that, a woman has to go to work and is presentable and can't afford to buy, a $4,000 Chanel suit, but could use something that is well made and